Hey everyone, this is Zonal Throne, and in this video I'm going to be going over a simple benchmarking process for any CPU or processor. Before we begin, I'm going to briefly go over why you would want to benchmark your PC. One instance that benchmarking can help with is overclocking. This is one of the main reasons for benchmarking. If you would like a guide for overclocking, you can check out my other video. And when overclocking, you may want to wait to see your performance gains and make sure that your overclocks are helping, which I did actually in my overclocking video. I used Cinebench to stress test it, but in this video, I'm going to be using Cinebench actually to benchmark it. And the way that this can be used is you can compare it to other PCs, mostly just comparisons, and make sure that yours is performing as best it can be. So to begin, you want to get some kind of benchmarking software. So if you want mostly just like a CPU related benchmark, then you're going to want Cinebench or CPU-Z. And in this video, I'm going to be focusing on Cinebench R23, the latest version of Cinebench software. And for the second part, I'm going to be using 3D Mark, which will give a more general overview of your whole PC. And both of them, I'll have a link in the description, so you can check it out. If you're on Windows, you could just type in Microsoft Store, go into there, type in Cinebench, and it'll show up right here. And this is one way to do it. This, I feel like, is a little bit easier. You can download it on Microsoft, or you can download it directly from Maxon. There's two settings here. There's the multi-core and the single core. And single core is typical, usually, and it makes more sense for overclocking, because what you're doing is you're adjusting the single core overclock. So it makes more sense to do single core usually. But in some instances, when you're focusing on a higher workload, it might be better to do multi-core. But for the most part, single core is the best way to go. And so right now I'm going to do the single core. So you're going to go up here, click start, and it should take a few minutes. It takes longer or shorter depending on how fast your CPU actually is. And basically it's just going to fill in these boxes until it makes a full picture. And based on how fast it does that, that's how it gets its score. As you can see, it's about done. It's just finishing up the last few. So basically, once this is done, it'll have a full picture drawn basically. And based on how long it takes and everything, it'll give you the score, which will show up in the left over here. And that score can be used for a couple different things actually. And also, it's important to note that when you are getting this, when you are benchmarking, you want to have everything else not on. Like, you want to have it like all background apps off, which I'm actually using OBS right now, so don't make videos when you're doing this, because that does affect the score a lot actually. So then you're gonna get this score right here, and it's gonna have, you can put more information or less information, and basically what it's gonna have is it's gonna have some basic information about your score and your CPU. And as you can see, I have an i5 9600K at 3.7 gigahertz, which actually, I don't know if this is just with the Microsoft version of Cinebench, but that's actually not correct. Mine is at 5 gigahertz right now. So if you have overclocked, then you probably know how fast your CPU is actually going. So if this is incorrect, you can just ignore it. And it does show up correctly in like things like NZXT cam. So basically what you can do with the score now is you can look up typical scores for your CPU or typical scores for other CPUs, and you can compare it, or you can compare this score to a score that you had before you overclocked maybe. And basically this is going to give you a very good view of your CPU itself. Next I'm going to be showing you how you can benchmark a more general overview of your entire PC with 3D Mark. Okay, here I am in Steam. As you can see, 3D Mark is available on Steam. So this is, I think, the easiest way to use it. And it normally costs $30 actually. I did buy it on sale though, because it went on sale for $5, I believe. So if it does go on sale for that, that is a pretty good investment if you're gonna do a lot of this stuff. But for most of it, just downloading the demo is fine. It'll have what you need, which is the time spy benchmark. It won't have some of the extra stuff, but it has what you need. And so just type in 3D Mark on Steam, click on it. They also have a demo, like a whole demo area, but if you just go to 3D Mark, go down, go to download demo, and that's really all you need to do. So here I am in 3D Mark, and this should be pretty much what you see in the demo version. The only thing extra that you really get is you get all of these benchmarks down here, but Time Spy is really the only one that I use anyway, and you get that for free. You just don't have some of the customization. So when you're ready, you just click run, and it should take around 5 minutes. It isn't that long. And again, you're going to want to make sure that you have nothing running other than this. So don't record like I'm doing. That does actually affect it. Not so much the GPU, but the CPU. I'll see you when it's done. Okay, I'm back, and we've got our scores. So it'll give you a total score, which in this case is 4,646, which you can use for just measuring the general overview of your whole PC. And then there's the graphics score, which is mostly for the GPU, of course. And then there's the CPU score, which is for the CPU, of course. And this can be used for pretty much the same things as we use Cinebench for, but it has a couple other things too. Like it has the monitoring for the whole thing, has the detailed monitoring, although just normal monitoring works fine. And then you can compare your results. You can easily save your results and compare them to future results. And I'm not sure why it's not showing up, but it's supposed to show you the estimated game performance in some games. And really, this is a pretty good tool. But you don't want to use this to figure out how many frames per second you're actually going to be getting in a real game, because this is a synthetic benchmark, and it's not going to be exactly like a game, because games just have different ways of using your hardware, and this uses it in a very specific way. So this is not the best for determining your game performance. This is good for determining your score compared to something else. And that's true for Cinebench too, except a little bit less with Cinebench. And so that's about it for this video. and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really hope it helped you. And if it did, leave a like. You can share it with your friends if they're wanting to benchmark their CPU. And go check out my overclocking video if you haven't already, where I overclock the same CPU that I'm using here. And yep,